So I got the tractor here at the home shop, and we are getting ready to get this thing ready for another mowing season. So first things first, I got to change the oil. It's been a while since I've changed it. 2021, 5,039 hours. We don't have a ton of hours. We've only got 5,067 hours. But we're going to change it anyway. So CarQuest 8515. That's the filter that I'm going to use. This is a Wix filter. That's the part number if anyone's interested. Do an oil change, transmission fluid change, hydraulic filter change. And obviously we've got a big oil leak here for the gearbox. Maybe I can get a seal for this. In case anyone was wondering, this does take an 1.25 inch socket. And no, you probably don't need a 1 inch, you probably need a 3/4 or 1 inch bar for that. But makes life a lot easier. That's pretty darn black. I'll tell you, the spin-on filter attachment is awesome. These used to be cartridge, and somewhere along the line someone has added a spin-on filter attachment for that thing, and it's been great. Ugh, without fail, it always ends up that the sticker is facing down. Alright, I'm just using this Traveler's 1540. I had some of this left over from when I serviced my semi-truck, so I think it'll be enough. I've always used 1540 in farm tractors. You know, there's some argument out there as to what you can use, but 1540 is great. So I lucked out. Look, I got almost every last bit of oil out of that bucket. And I haven't started it yet. So this is slightly over the fill mark. And usually what happens is as soon as you start it up, the oil filter will take just a little bit of that. So that's going to be just right. I got lucky. Otherwise I'd have to open up a new 5-gallon pail just for like 1/4 quart. Okay, here it is another day. And I'm going to change the transmission fluid. This is the fill level, so you undo this plug, you fill from this hole. Whenever fluid comes up to this point, you're full. The drain plug is over on this side, right in the center of the transmission. That is a square plug. I always like to use an 8-point socket. Takes a 5/8. Loosen that up. Ooh, that was some nasty looking fluid. Look at that. That was in dire need of a change. Wow. That just about fills a 5-gallon bucket. Look how nasty that oil is. Alright, so this, usually I would have used a square socket, but this thing has been undone many a time, probably by a farmer with what I'm using right here. So as a result, this is nice and rounded over, so it's not tight, it's just one of those things. It would be nice to fix that. Maybe put a new plug in. Might as well do this one while we're up here with this metric American adjustable. Yeah, you can see quite a bit of milky oil in there. Good thing we're changing it. Now I'm using this blue monster tape. This stuff is usually good for like petroleum or oil in this case. I'm going to use this stuff just to seal up this drain plug. You don't necessarily need to use thread tape, but I don't want to have any leaks, and it's expensive fluid that we're using, so it doesn't hurt just to give it a little bit of love. Alright, so there's still quite a bit of sludge from that water in this sump of this transmission. Now I still got the drain pan underneath. I don't recommend doing this. This is brake cleaner, but I'm going to try just to shoot mostly the sump, and that'll run right out the bottom. But there's a lot of sludge in the bottom of this thing. I really don't want to just run the new oil and have it sort itself out, because then I'll be doing like another oil change almost instantly. Now, this is hard on seals and stuff like that, so I'm trying just to concentrate on the bottom, that sump area, where the sludge is settled the most, before that stuff evaporates. Yeah, it looks pretty darn good. Now, I wouldn't do this normally, but there's like almost 5 gallons worth of fluid in here. What little bit of brake cleaner is left in there is not going to hurt a thing. So I don't know if you can see that now. However, the bottom of that sump is nice and clean now. There's hardly any water-stained fluid left. This is what I'm using here, guys. This is a VP J28 Plus. I get this down at Tractor Supply. This is the best deal they have on hydraulic. Well, this is utility tractor fluid, so this is good for your transmission and your hydraulic systems. This is like 60 bucks for a 5-gallon pail. This is about the cheapest I've found for a universal tractor fluid. And, you know, VP Racing is a pretty darn good brand, so this is what I always go with on my tractors. Okay, made a little bit of a mess here, but that's full. Now, I get a lot of friction for this exhaust guard that I made. Whenever I'm out bush hogging, I hit a lot of rocks and trees and everything, and I like that low-slung exhaust. I want to keep it preserved. But I do get some oil buildup there, but it's only from this gearbox, and it's hard to find a seal for this gearbox. I've been looking everywhere I can. I ordered a couple seal kits. Turned out they were for the pump. They were mislabeled from like various tractor companies. Anyway, I do have to pressure wash that off because it is kind of a fire hazard at this point, but usually dried grass and everything does not bother. I've used this for 2 years now and it's fine. Just wanted to show you what it looked like inside. All that nice new looking fluid in there. It's kind of hard to see. I don't know if it's even worth a shot, but there it is. And I just want to show you, this is Mark's Pro Tips number 23. You don't need to go buy an expensive funnel to go in your 55-gallon drums. This is one of those buckets of water, like, what are they, a little over 5 gallons, that you get for like $5. There you go. Now, the guy who takes my waste oil might not be super happy about that last batch of oil, but you win some, you lose some. So that was the first time I've ever drained the transmission fluid on this tractor since I bought it. Now, if you guys are a long-time viewer of this channel, you remember a couple years ago, I made a big video about hydraulic problems with this thing and how the 3-point hitch has been having some issues going up and down. I think what I'm going to find whenever I drain the hydraulic fluid is that there's going to be water in this fluid as well. Now, that's the other part of owning old tractors, guys. Sometimes things aren't perfect and you have to kind of work with what you have. I've been mowing with this thing now for 2 years, and I only put 30 hours on it over the last year, you know, and maybe 60 hours over the last 2 years. But the thing is, it needs a fluid change, and it also needs a new pickup tube for the pump cover and this inlet filter. Now, the problem is that pump right here, I don't know if you can, let me get the flashlight in here. That pump right here needs to be removed to properly get that pickup tube and that filter in there. Now, obviously, it's hidden behind the steps, the brake levers. That's a pretty big job. You could, you know, I don't think there's any way that you can get around that. Unless you unhook the lever and maybe just let these drop. But also, there is a cover on this side that has to come undone. An inspection cover right there, so you can reach in there. And also this step has to come off. Clutch lever has to come off. So basically what I'm getting at is, if I pull the fluid out of this thing, and it looks like what we just pulled out of the transmission, I'm going to fill it with new fluid and hopefully get a lot of that junk, milky fluid mixed in with newer fluid. And next year, hopefully, it'll be clear. So that way I'm only having to do this filter and suction inlet once, because that's a big job to do this, and I'll do a whole nother video on that. But I just figured for this year, I do got to get using this thing. It's middle of June. Kind of bummed. I was hoping to be able to do this. But if I just put this right back together with that milky fluid, I'm going to be doing the filters twice. And I think the tractor will still work fine. It's not like it's going to blow up or anything. But so anyway, that's where we're at with this. Just figured I'd let everybody know. So we're taking a journey under the tractor to find this drain plug right here. This is what drains a hydraulic system. Before I pull the drain plug, I wanted to show you, this is the fill level. This is where you fill from. Just easier to put a funnel in there and fill. That's where you fill up to. I'm just going to go ahead and take this off using the Farmer's Special. I don't remember what I did last time, but I thought the seat was off whenever I did this, because that might be a pain to get the funnel in there. We'll see. I have to unbolt the seat. Oh, that was tight. This had been... Alright. Now, some people give me crap for wearing gloves, but you know what? I do not like the smell of hydraulic oil. And whenever it does stuff like that, it gets all over you. Alright. Hopefully that doesn't overflow this bucket, because I don't think I'll be prepared. And that's filling up pretty fast. Just a friendly reminder, or not a reminder, but an informative segment here. You do need another bucket. Now, I made quite a mess here. I didn't think it was going to be more than 5 gallons, but it is. Now, I just wanted you to note the color. A lot of water in there. Now, I don't know where all the water comes from, because this thing is left inside. It must just be condensation over the years. But we are definitely not going to be doing the filters this year. We're going to do a fluid change, potentially another fluid change before we do filters. So anyway, that's where we're at so far. I now need to get another bucket. Now, just a note, I'm not going to torment my waste oil guy with all that fluid. You know, I don't mind doing one 5-gallon pail for a full 55-gallon. But we're probably going to use that as fire fuel for a bonfire or something. We'll do something with it. Now, if you're doing this, and you know, you don't really do it a lot, one thing I would suggest is keep a couple of empty 5-gallon jugs with the lids. Don't throw the lid out. That's the key thing. And you can use these as drain cans. And then you can put the lid back on. You can take them around to wherever you gotta get rid of the oil. So these things come in handy. I have a ton of these empty ones just sitting around waiting for projects like this. Okay, take 2. We'll see how much this has in it. I was very lucky to actually get this drain plug in before it overfilled that bucket, so life is good. Okay, so there is an end in sight. About 1.5 of these 5-gallon buckets, so probably about 8 gallons. Another thing, put the 3-point all the way down and cycle your controls for your remotes. And you get a little bit more oil coming out of there. Anything you can do just to try to get as much oil out of the base as you can, because it's not very often and it's expensive to do this swap here. Alright, that's about as much as we're probably going to get out of here. So we'll go ahead and throw that drain plug back in. That'll do it. Okay, so I got that funnel kind of wedged in there just right, and show you a close-up of that. First things first though, we're going to take this plug, the fill plug, or not the fill plug, but the fill level plug, out of the hydraulic housing. And I'll put some paper underneath that, because whenever this thing does finally get full, it makes a mess. So this is the scene. See the cardboard underneath there? I've got oil all over the place. Now, there's no real easy way to do this. As you can see here, the bottle burped there on me, and it sent fluid all over the place, so I gotta clean this up. But that's full. 6, 23, 5,067 hours. That's the easiest way for me to remember it by. Just by writing it down right on the machine. Perfect. I've got a lot of pieces of equipment that I have to care for and maintain, you know, my own stuff. And I don't always want to go looking for the manual or where I wrote it down, where I did the last service. So stuff like this is just so convenient, because it's amazing how fast time goes by. Like, I couldn't believe the date when I last changed this oil. So it, you know, stuff like that, I'll probably forget all about that next year. And then it'll be 2 years before I actually do the filters and everything. So at the very least, I have it, a record of it. Looks like it needs a touch of power steering fluid. This funnel that I'm using, let me just take that out and show you, is actually for DEF fluid, you know, like in your new pickups, diesel pickups that have DEF fluid. This thing is designed for the ones that have the DEF fluid like under the hood, you know, kind of over by the battery, the second battery. But it fits in there just perfect. So if you're a Ford 5000 owner, grab yourself one of these. I'm actually using Dexron 3. Power steering fluid is, you know, universal, but so is transmission fluid. So this is a power steering pump, and this whole head is leaking, basically. What happens is the oil drips down, and it fills the front end of that front differential area, underneath the radiator and everything. So it's been 2 years since I've checked that, and it's only down like 1/4 of a quart, so it's not terrible. I'll just keep putting oil in it until it gets a lot worse. Unfortunately, that's what you have to do sometimes with these old tractors. Now, another reason why I'm using transmission fluid in this is that it's dyed red. Now, whenever you're doing repair on these older tractors, sometimes it's easy just to have something that says, hey, this is bright red. This only comes from the power steering. That way you can identify a leak a lot easier as if you have like engine oil color, you know, which is power steering fluid. Power steering is almost identical looking to engine oil. So this way, you know, beyond the shadow of a doubt, if I see red fluid on the ground, there's only one fluid that it could be. All right, let's give this a check. I overfilled it by design, and that's just about perfect. Wow, there's a lot of junk in there. It's probably good to be cleaning this out. The radiator always sucks in stuff like that, and sometimes it's hard to blow that out with a leaf blower like whenever I normally do after running the bush hog. We're going to take off the bottom of this air cleaner and clean the oil. So whenever I built this brush guard, you know, that's that little blue grid you're looking through right now. I kind of made provisions for this because I knew someday I'd be cleaning this out and it would be a lot easier if there was a hole in the front of this brush guard. So anyway, you can still clean that. Actually, that oil looks really good, but I'll change it anyway. Doesn't even look like there's anything in there. That's incredible. After 2 years of mowing. Oh, that's where all the junk is. Bugs and dirt and everything else. All right, so check this out. We've got some horse flies in there, some a lot of dirt. So anyway, these air cleaners, a lot of people think these air cleaners are garbage, but I mean, look at all the stuff that this thing sucks up. I'm convinced these air cleaners are probably better than some of the modern air filters, you know, like the pleated paper cartridge filters. And I don't know, this technology has been around for a long time. It's some better light, and it still works awesome to this day. This is pretty much just the only way to get this out of here without plugging up all your waste oil containers and everything else. It's crazy to think of all the stuff that is flying around out there, and the engine is only breathing in just a little bit of it. Tiny, tiny, tiny little bit. You know, obviously this is catching most of it, but if you've ever been out in a big hayfield, you know, and you've got all the dust flying around out there, that's really impressive, the amount of dirt that this thing sucked up and stopped from going in the engine. But also, I was kind of expecting there to be a lot more. So, anyway, I just kind of thought that was interesting. So in case anyone was wondering, basically, you put this in here and you fill it up. Now, you have to fill this cup and this cup up to the level right here. And I don't know if you can read that in here or not, but it basically says oil level, both cups. Oil level, both cups. So it says it twice, so in case you know, didn't see it the first time. But anyway, that sits in there like that. And then we just add oil. And I'm just using some old, you know, 1540 that I had laying around. This is extra from an old job or something. So basically, just this thing takes a good bit of oil too. I gotta go get some more. This bottle's empty, but you have to fill up that bottom cup and this cup on the inside that you see. Okay, so that's pretty much what it's supposed to look like once you swoosh it around, and the oil level has to be pretty much right at the crest of this lip. All right, I'm gonna put this back on the tractor. I'm also just gonna take off this inlet. see a lot of oil and everything that comes up through there. Just gonna take the time to clean that out. All right, so I cleaned this all out with air, degreased it and everything. That looks a lot better. I'm just gonna take and clean that up a little bit. And unless it's covered in oil, I believe this tractor has a little bit of blow-by in the case. I don't think the rings are as tight as it used to be. So I think a little bit of pressure comes from the base and pushes some of the oil up through this breather. I think that's why it's got a little slick of oil. There's nothing we can really do about that right now. I just noticed that was pretty darn dark. You might not have been able to see that, but that's the radiator all cleaned out. I could even take the air gun and blow that out from the backside to get it better. Alright guys, so I didn't get as much done as I had wanted on this tractor, but it is mowing season now, mid-July, and I need to get this thing back over to the farm so I can use it. So I got all the major things done service-wise. It's going to run great. Just didn't get a chance to do like the toolbox and, you know, better position for a fire extinguisher, stuff like that. And this trailer is a 1960s Schertzer. It's a 15-ton lowboy. I went through all this thing a couple years ago and got it all ready for DOT inspection and everything else, and LED lights. And this is just a bulletproof setup. I love this setup. Alright guys, here we are back on the farm. Get this thing unloaded, and this will start the mowing season. This thing rides pretty comfortably on this trailer. I didn't get a chance. I was going to degrease all this and fix the seal on that gearbox. Couldn't find a seal. Didn't have time to degrease it. I don't know. I had to bring this over to my shop in the winter time so I can pick away at all this stuff. Without fail, it's always like I get stuff done last minute. I just got a lot going on, so it's hard to get this stuff taken care of when it needs to be taken care of. But anyways, this will do another mowing season just fine.